Save big on all your back-to-school needs, all in the Kroger app. Get delicious, fresh Heritage Farm boneless chicken breasts for $2.49 a pound with your card. Then get 3-pound bags of juicy Cutie seedless mandarins for $2.99 a pound with your card and a digital coupon. Shop these deals at your local Kroger, less than 5 miles away. Or tap the screen now to download the Kroger app to save big today. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Prices and product availability subject to change. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Hashtag no music, no intro. A guest joining us. This is a third time you've joined us?
I think third. Maybe four.
3, 4, we lose count. ESPN's owns Katherine Terrell, Saints beat reporter. Do you have the senior beat reporter in your title?
I do not have senior beat reporter. I have not reached that cool status where I get to put senior in front of my title. I don't know if I want it. I don't know. Would that just make me feel or look older? Every time I tell people I've covered the league for 12 years, I'm like, that's not possible.
I would say this: if senior beat reporter comes with a pay increase, then you absolutely should angle your.
That's true. That's true. I think I'm just not ready to be a senior anything. I still feel like I'm the 23-year-old sometimes. Sometimes. Then I hang out with 23-year-olds and I'm like, no. I'm not 23.
No. You hang out with a 23-year-old, you quickly find out that you were no longer 23 years old.
Oh, absolutely.
Cam in the chat said we got a special guest, so I'm going to keep the antics down. We'll keep them down to a minimum. Friend of the podcast, Katherine Terrell, we wanted to have you come on. You just finished training camp out here in Southern California. You're back in Louisiana. And we're talking Saints because the football season starts very soon.
Very soon.
Yeah, man.
Very, very soon. And I think that this has been such a interesting offseason. Everything regarding the Saints has just been interesting to some type of degree. So we wanted you to have you on, preview the season. But I think even before previewing the season, just talking about your overall thoughts from training camp in Irvine, no fans. You
haven't mentioned that at all.
No,
that is our corner. That is our corner. We have state. That is our territory right there.
The worst. Just see, you've gotten me going. The worst part is that they had the practice yesterday, and they're like, "Oh, here's all the fan engagement." I was like, "Cool,
yeah,
cool."
Yeah, I mean, I could see seeing that after a month of no fans and just being like.
But what was your thoughts of training camp overall?
I mean, well, you know me, I'm always pretty honest. Up and down, I've learned over the years that you can't take too much out of training camp. You can't go too high and you can't go too low. People get so fixated on certain players and they don't translate to the regular season. So I've tried to be more measured, good or bad. That probably doesn't always happen. You kind of get your opinion and it doesn't change. There are certain things about this team that I've told people I feel like they haven't fixed. I feel like there's some ways I am looking at the same team from last year. Of course, every time I say that, someone will say, no, everything's different. And I understand that. The offense, because of they're thinking I'm saying, well, they haven't changed offense. Right. Obviously, that is a huge difference. I think that the players are excited about it. I think that the Saints were very stuck in, well, things were working, so we didn't need to change it. And now suddenly it wasn't working, so they had to overhaul everything. I get that. But, I think the concerns that we had going into training camp, the tackle spot, the left guard spot, I don't think those questions have been answered yet, and they have very little time to figure that out. I think the defense is still going to be good. The players my concern last year was the players that are superstars were getting older, and now we're another year older. DeMario is still DeMario, but DeMario is also 35. What kind of year is he going to have? I don't know. I think you do know with him, he's going to give everything he has to make sure it's a good year, but sometimes the drop off can't happen. Haven't seen it in camp, but also, he's had injuries, so that's kind of hard to say. I'm trying to go through like my main points in my head that I always think about when I think about this team. I think that I know it's probably a touchy subject. I think it was good in many ways that they went away because they've always come away from some of these trips where they say they come back and they're a closer team. I think that they needed that because there was so much, disarray on the offense last year. I don't know if it's going to fix it, but if anything was going to fix it, it was going to be forced togetherness time where maybe they come away from that closer as a team. Again, don't know if that's going to happen, but we're gonna see that. So, I'm kind of rambling through some points. If there's any main point y'all were curious about, just throw it out there. But yeah,
No,
good and bad, I guess.
yeah, I guess the big elephant in the room that it was like the number one thing everybody was looking for going into training camp, going into preseason. It's Trevor Penning, right tackle. Like everybody's eyes go straight to that spot.
Right.
I don't think any offensive tackle has been studied as closely as Trevor Penning. Like everybody's watching him.
That's
And
probably true.
good. Hey, first week one of the preseason. It was about as bad as it could be. It was terrible. It was terrible. I was like, how do you even put him on the field? And then last week, this past preseason game, you saw it was better. It was a little better.
Yeah.
But
the bar is low.
The bar is so low at this point. So, and then I saw yesterday that they're starting to put Udo over at right tackle just a little bit. But from what I understand, like Trevor Penning has been like at right tackle with the ones pretty much the whole time. So, like, do you feel like there's a shift happening where they're starting to think, like, look, we really need to come up with a plan B? Or will they just keep trying and just look, we're going to live and die with Trevor Penning. Like, whatever it is, we're going to live and die with it.
I think they should have had a plan B weeks ago. I don't think that you need a plan B. God, what the regular season starts? It's September 10th, right?
Yeah.
It's very close. Very close. I almost said a month to someone today, and then I was like, oh, wait, no. It's very close. I think it's September 10th. So just days ago, Dennis Allen was saying they had the right five. Now, I was kind of reporters, like, I joke that we go to work and then all we do is talk about work. Like we just talk about the team for the rest of the day. It's like 90% of our conversations. And so we were talking about what he meant by that. I was saying, is he being stubborn in saying it's the right five? Or someone pointed out, well, maybe he was saying we have the right five available. I didn't take it that way, but, it's semantics. So if it is, it's the right five as of 5 days ago, whatever, to me, that was being stubborn. There's clearly still a problem. I think it comes down to still a confidence issue with Trevor Penning. I think that they said last year they didn't want to destroy his confidence. I think that they're still trying to protect that confidence. I think you can see that the way DA might talk about certain players and certain players he never really said anything negative about publicly. So I think that's probably largely part of it. It's probably part of why they were sticking to, hey, a right tackle, it's going to be Trevor. We're going to give him all the support and confidence he needs. But if it's not working, then you need a backup plan and a backup plan quick. I think the good thing is that Udo has a lot of experience. That's why they signed him. He could play a lot of different positions. So that's good. So he can move in that spot quickly. The bad part is I don't think he had a great game one. I think it was game one. I don't think he had a great game one either. So, and Landon Young has had his struggles. So there's just nobody waiting in the wings that's going to come fix this.
Right.
So I kind of said when Fuaga got hurt, I said this is like a house of cards. So you see when Fuaga got hurt, there's nowhere to go. Like you can put Landon on that side, but then what if something happens on the other side? Now you can't. Can you add help to the other side? I don't know. So I think that maybe they're at a crossroads and they're saying, well, we might just need to move beyond this protecting the confidence issue and try out everyone we can to see what we get. I think it probably should have been open competition from day one. But, I don't know. I don't talk to these players every single day. So managing players and managing confidence in the player's psyche is all a part of the game, as you'll know. And so maybe I'm just speculating. That might be part of it. My rambling answer.
Oh no, it's a huge part of it. And it's weird as a fan. All three of us can agree that DA Dennis Allen is 100% coaching for his job this season. I'd agree with that. With that being the case, with the offensive line, like maybe halfway into training camp, and you see that Trevor Penning struggling, it's a little wild to me that conversation isn't like, hey, Donovan Smith started for the Chiefs and was in the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes makes the Chiefs offensive line look good or better than it may actually be, but he was at least serviceable last season. So it's just weird and that's just an example of one player, right? That someone who as a coach is coaching for their job, they don't have the foresight to be like, all right, this offensive line has to work because it has to work because it has to work for Derek Carr. And it's just it just feels like they're just out there just on a whim. It may work, it may not. I guess we'll see week one.
Yeah. I mean, I even thought last year that the confidence thing was weird when they got all the way to the Atlanta game and they were blowing them out and they didn't put them in the game. That to me that would have been the perfect time to get this guy some reps. They didn't trust him enough to play, or he just was so out of the game plan entirely. They didn't even think, hey, we're gonna.
He wasn't even in the six tackle type. It was like, geez, he's in the doghouse, not getting out.
It's such an interesting dynamic from when Peyton was here and how he treated the Charlie Brown situation.
We talked about that on the last episode.
We talked about it the other day at dinner. How he called an impromptu press conference, or he moved the time to the morning, and he was like, Teron Armstead is starting. But there is no Teron Armstead, waiting in the wings. Not that I know of. Yeah. At least not that I've seen, and I'm not even trying to be mean. I'm just trying to be honest.
No.
It
is what it is.
So I guess you got to figure out how to best manage this. I think it didn't help that day one their potential left guard goes down. So now you're managing that. But all that stuff happens. So you have to prepare for that. Fuaga getting hurt, people are proceeding as if Fuaga is going to play all 17 games. And obviously you hope he does, but maybe he doesn't. And then you got to figure that out. So it's always this shifting about. Yeah, I know. Sorry to even put that in the universe. He was at practice today. So,
but it has been kind of weird with Fuaga. Especially it kind of dawned on everybody when he did get hurt for a little bit, because it was just kind of Fuaga's at left tackle, and we wasn't even really thinking about it anymore. It was just kind of assumed he's going to start and he's going to be fine.
Yeah, he's there. He's good.
He's good.
He's done his job.
This is a rookie.
Which is wild to think, a rookie that is changing positions that isn't naturally his. Cool.
Yeah, I'm fascinated to see what they do in the future, because you have to assume, unless Trevor Penning does take that next step forward this year, that they're going to be looking for a right tackle in the future. So what do they do with Fuaga? I mean, maybe Fuaga goes out there and he's just fine. Maybe he excels at this spot. I don't know. I mean, that's a season away, but But yeah, I know you've mentioned that before, and I always do find it so interesting that all these players were drafted to play one position, and they all ended up playing something different.
It's crazy.
I know that's one of your soapboxes, but it is funny.
Interesting question that we have in our live stream YouTube. Jim asked, bigger disappointment, Kendre, Penning, or Foskey? I feel like it's good to ask you that question. Because
that's a lot of disappointment.
That's a good question.
It is.
I think obviously Penning's a first round pick, so you expect a lot out of a first round pick. However, it's maybe maybe with that one, you got to blame the coaching staff a little bit for not recognizing he wasn't ready. Would things have been different? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe he's not an NFL caliber player. Again, like maybe he takes that step forward. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know if last year, if they had waited and let him develop, if it would have changed things. Every player is different. So like that one's a little, I don't know. I mean, he came from a small school, but they still chose to take him in the first round. Foskey, I think that one's rough because last year they did not have a good pass rush. He still couldn't get on the field. Even this year, when you start counting numbers, he's not gonna see a lot of playing time unless there's an injury. So like maybe that one, unless we're a year from now we're talking about him and he's had some huge step forward.
We won't be, Kat.
But Tano's gonna theoretically come back, at some point during the season, right? So that's another number that I would assume would be in front of him. So, he has not had the camp where I think, suddenly that he's going to be competing for playing time. Even with them trying to figure out the camp situation.
And then Kendra, it's like, I don't even know what to think about that.
I will say it's interesting that we rake DA over the coals a lot. I don't think I've ever seen him be like this outwardly disgusted towards a player.
Right.
And I don't know where that comes from.
Well, I assume you all saw the press conference today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was in the other room. Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't
watch them. I can't hear. I can read what DA says. I can't hear it.
You can't watch it. Okay, well, I was interviewing someone for a while, and I came back out, and he was still talking, and I looked at someone else like, wait, this has gone on a really long time. What is he talking about? And so it was a lot of talk about accountability, availability. He got asked so many questions about Kendra Miller, and he's essentially saying, so we put in an entirely new offense. He was hurt last year, so we didn't see as much from him last year as we wanted to. Now we put in a new offense. He hasn't played. He hasn't participated. So I don't actually even know if he can pick up the new offense. I don't know anything about him. And so it almost is like he's trying to prepare people. Well, I mean, obviously he's trying to light fire. That's clearly what he's trying to do. It's almost like he's trying to prepare people for him to be cut. But I think that he's probably just going to end up going on IR, which to me is, I keep saying that's crazy because you're going to miss 8 weeks with a hamstring injury.
A hamstring?
I mean, but I think it's what is going to happen unless they feel that this player is not mature enough and he's not going to get there and we just want to move on. But are they going to do that in year 2? I don't know. I mean, this team doesn't – I don't think they tend to give up on players that fast.
No.
So I don't know, but I clearly think that it's a light a fire situation because you only see it with certain players. Like A.T. Perry, Kendra Miller, but you don't really see that.
You don't see it with You don't see that with Nick Sosaverde. He's like the same situation similarly.
He did talk about him a few weeks ago, but to be fair, he's not getting asked about Nick Saldiveri a lot. You know what I mean? Like people are so interested in what's going on with Kendra Miller, but Saldiveri got hurt and then we never saw him again. And so I think it was clear he wasn't coming back for a while. I think people see Kendra Miller on the side and they want to know what's going on. It's a hamstring injury. Demario had a hamstring injury and he's already back. Now, granted, there's different grades, so that's not entirely fair. But, it does make people curious, and so he gets asked about it a lot.
The rookie running back. Yeah, the rookie running back from the Giants got carted off the field and put in an air cast and was back in 4 days.
Oh, really? I didn't see that.
What is?
I see some training camp updates and others I don't. It all depends on what I happen to be seeing through my phone when the Saints aren't practicing.
But then I think it's because he plays running back and the team outside of Kamara, they desperately need some juicy running back. So it's just
it's a huge gap between Kamara and everyone else.
Oh my God! And then he finished the season last year on a positive note, that final game in Atlanta, it was like, oh, okay, this is what we've been missing with Kendrick Miller. And then it just, I guess, is just disappointing. Do you think the team is going to bring in another running back when, after cuts or something like that? Do you think, or do you think they're just kind of going to stick with what they got?
Well, DA said today that he likes what they have, but I feel like coaches always say that.
Stop lying to me.
Yeah.
Stop lying to me.
Coaches always say that. I've been saying for weeks that I think that there's a running back out there that's going to end up on the team that's not on the team. I just feel like they need to go look in some way. And I kind of say it as, Jordan Mims has done what he needs to do to make the team, but it's Kamara and everyone else. So right now, that's the roster shapes up. In my mind, it would be Jamal Williams, Kamara, Kendra goes to IR, I guess, and then Jordan Mims. But, I mean, that should not prevent them from at least going out and looking. And they do that. They've done that a few times with running backs, like right around this time. I mean, there was a year, I think they cut Latavius Murray right after camp and then brought in, I cannot remember who they brought in. That's a blur right now, but I do remember that was a fairly big deal.
Yeah, it was.
I'm glad it's not just me. I can't think of it right now. I just remember that they were like trying to figure that position out, and I think they need to do that.
Came later.
That was later in a trade after Tony Jones got hurt.
Oh, Ryan's favorite.
Oh.
Our chats are full of questions. I'm for sure not going to be able to get to them all. Dante asks, do you think that they are in the market for a right receiver as well?
Ooh, that's not what I've really thought about. However, I don't think the bottom of the wide receiver group has been super impressive. Part of that's due to injuries. That has been a problem with this group. No, I don't think they'll. Like, maybe they could look to claim someone off waivers, but I don't think they make any sort of like big splash as much as you can make at this point. Just because, you can count Taysom as a pass catcher, and then Jawan would be catching passes, then Kamara would be catching passes. So they probably look at it that way and don't think, hey, we need to go out and get another one. I actually, I'm doing my 53 today, and I went from 6 to 5, but I only did that because we don't know Ford's situation with his injury, so they might have to keep more linebackers. It's a huge puzzle, trying to figure out what 53 they're going to have on day one, and then what the 53 is going to be on day two, because I guarantee you they're going to be looking for offensive linemen.
I heard Juwan Johnson yesterday. He talked about how he was pretty much in a dark place, while out there in Irvine because, he wasn't practicing and stuff like that. But then, yesterday, he looked good. I just saw one clip and I was like, oh, he looks fine. You know what I'm saying? So I guess he's 100%. He's ready to go or close to it.
It was actually so loud over there that it was almost impossible to hear what anyone was saying. And so I haven't gone back and listened to his whole interview. So I could hear parts of it, and I could hear when he said, I consider myself 100%. I can see why he felt that way because, he has a young daughter who just turned 1 and, another kid on the way, and he goes to California and he's away from his family for a month but he's not practicing. So it's kind of like you're there, but you're not there. And so I could understand that would put you in a really weird headspace. Tano's been at every practice, but the only thing Tano can do right now is walk, at least when we see him. So he spends every practice walking around with a weighted vest. And I was thinking, man, wouldn't you just be going crazy after a while, just doing the same thing every day? But that's what you have to do to get better. But he looked good, running around. He hasn't progressed to full team drills, but I think that he's been on track as to where he's supposed to go in terms of his rehab and stuff. I don't think that was a setback or anything. I think they probably always kind of thought he'd be back right around the regular season. So we'll see how up to speed he gets, though. I don't know if he's going to be able to take off running week 1, but we'll see.
We haven't really addressed the elephant in the room, I guess.
The other elephant.
Another elephant?
Yeah.
What elephants we got?
The starting quarterback of the Saints, Ryan.
I thought that was going to be your first elephant, actually.
Keep you on your toes. just no one has seen him more in this offense during training camp. I was there at the 49ers game and saw the 3 drives. So I'm wanting Katherine Terrell's honest assessment of Derek Carr in training camp with the new Clint Kubiak offense.
Well, I'll start with the games real quick, even though I know you've seen those. I was not impressed, obviously, with the first 4 drives. I even tweeted, I don't know if you saw, I was like, they need to just keep getting sent out there in this game until they actually do something, because this is just basically atrocious. And then they had a 16-play drive, and that's great. That's what you want to see. But also last year, they only had the 1 drive together, right? Like the 1 touchdown drive. That was basically their crowning achievement of preseason, and it didn't translate right away. It took forever for them to actually figure out how to play as a team. So I think that Carr has looked good in practice, but there are things that I think we've seen in games and things like that, like pop up. Well, I say it looks good. I think he's looked good at times. I think that there's been sometimes you see reports and it's like, oh, Carr's looked great every day, and like that's not the case. The offense is up and down. They have their good days and bad days. Today was good, and you either take that as, hey, the defense had a great day, or the offense had a bad day. So, it's hard for me to figure out what he's going to do this year, because I worry about the start of the season and how many hard games there are at the beginning of the season, and that this offensive line hasn't figured it out, and that some of his stars are dealing with injuries. I'm not trying to not answer the question. I'm trying to go through each one of my my concerns, and I am concerned overall, just because I think they have to start way faster than they started last year, or else they're going to be in a huge hole. I think that Carr is in a good position to do that with Kubiak, because they've actually been able to install this offense together. And so there's really, no excuses. And I say that for Dennis Allen too. Carr and Kubiak were able to just install the offense together, play to his strengths, things like that. I think they're going to figure out, how can we play to this guy's strengths more than they did last year? And that's going to be good. I think Taysom has looked great. If they can figure out how to use Taysom in more ways, if that's even possible, that's going to help. Still worried about the running backs, but, we'll see how that works out. So he has the potential to have a very good season. I guess, remain skeptical until I see it. You know what I mean?
That's the smile for me.
Yeah.
It was a smile for me.
Well, I was kind of smiling because I'm like, I sound so negative, and I'm not trying to. I'm just trying to be measured, because I see this team as they have the Panthers, and then after that it's like
week 2 to week 7,
right? And so can they wipe out all the that happened last year and just be like, get off running? And I will tell you that I think Olave has looked great. I feel like he's really embraced the number 1 receiver position. I guess he was that last year, but it feels like he's had to because there's been injuries and they've really relied on him. And I thought that, he's been consistently very good. So Chris Olave might end up being the security blanket this year. Will those two be on the same page? They better be. So,
I was looking at Derek Carr. He was on Kay Adams today, but he was talking about how and this is understandable. Like, he came from a different team last year, been with the same team for 10 years, moved down here. Says wife didn't know anybody. He's trying to find a school for the kids, church, trying to get acclimated to a completely new locker room, new guys looking at him sideways. He's trying to. So I can understand all that, where he's coming from. Then he did get hurt. Like, he got hurt. He had the AC sprain. Then there's the constant talk about the final 4 games. He led the league with 14 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So I guess there is a sliver of people who want to look at it with the glass half full. It's this thing can really turn around. And then there's it's hard for me to shake what we saw last year for most of the season. And, even just a little bit through the preseason is but then you add in the Clint Kubiak equation. And I really do think what Clint Kubiak plans on doing will help him a lot. I really
agree.
do.
Yeah.
I really do believe that.
I mean, I think it's just they're going to put him in a better position to do the things that he's good at doing. And I know last year it's just forcing. I felt like you kind of, like I said, you forced everyone into this old offense, and I mean old just the offense that was already there. And I to talk to players was so interesting because they were saying they have a lot of new ways of explaining things and how they simplified the playbook this year. And Jake Hayner said something like, what worked for Drew Brees 15 years ago doesn't necessarily work for Jake Hayner in 2024. And when you hear that, it makes you think, okay, so y'all were just going about it the same way year after year when maybe that wasn't what was best for the players anymore. And, that's just one player's opinion. Although, I think that Hayner usually has a very good way of explaining these things. And Olave actually agreed. This was back in the OTAs or minicamp. So that's one incredibly positive thing that maybe they're going to figure out how to tailor their offense to their players, which sounds so simple, right?
Crazy concept.
It sounds so simple. So, I sound measured or negative. I mean, I definitely think that the potential is there. I'm not necessarily looking at the season and saying, oh man, they have no shot. I just think that if they don't start the season firing on all cylinders, it could quickly go south because of all the things that we just mentioned and because of this really hard early schedule.
Really hard.
Really hard. I just found out that I'm going to the Dallas game. Kind of against my will. Thank you, Uncle. I appreciate it. I'll be
well. I'll be there.
No, I know. I will be too, apparently. We had a super chat. Shout out to our dude Cam. He said, who would start? I can't tell. Basically, he's asking who should be starting at safety between Abrams and Howden.
Oh, that's a good question. I honestly think no one has separated themselves. Not what you want to see this late. I was talking about that today. If I had to pick between the two, I would pick Abram. But it's a little concerning that I just feel like between them and Harris, no one's really grabbed that position. I do think also, though, I was talking to someone about this as well, that so when you're watching camp, there's certain things you're trying to watch for. I'm always watching the right side of the offensive line. I'm often watching the cornerbacks. You're trying to see what the pass rush can do. So there's only so many things you can watch. I feel like people don't watch the safeties as much just because there's so many other things you're trying to take note of.
Yeah.
So then maybe what happens in closed practices is that there's not a great assessment of how the safeties are doing kind of getting out there because of that reason. And that's just me because I'm only one person. But just from what I've seen so far, I just feel like no one has cemented that job. And that's why they've been moving them around so much and rotating them because they don't know either. So they have one more game to figure that out. It's probably why they went after Simmons. Personally, I think they should have been looking at, tackles to sign instead of a safety. But I also know, it's not like tackles are cheap either. If you want to go get one, you're going to be paying for it in some form or fashion.
Yo, Wolf.
What up?
I'm looking at you, man, and looking like you getting slimmer, man. And I'm noticing that I'm dropping some pounds. And the last time we did this Vertimax ad, we were a little heavier in our lives. And we can safely say that Vertimax is where you need to be to help improve your athletic performance.
No question, man. And look, if you know about Vertimax, you've seen guys like Alvin Kamara, jump out the building. How do you think he does that? That's because of Vertimax. Drew Brees, the athleticism he's shown, shaking Falcons players, diving in the end zone. It's Vertimax. So, I mean, Vertimax.com, you definitely should check that out, folks, because it's helping everybody.
With Vertimax at Vertimax.com, you have the V8 platform, you have the Raptors. They're designed to enhance physical jump, agility, and power. It helps create more athleticism and gives you a foundation to be great at what you want to do. Go check it out at Vertimax.com, the V8s, the Vertimax Raptor, Vertimax.com. Check it out.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. How was it in Irvine though? Like, I guess it was weird with no fans. So, did you feel like the media and the team kind of become closer, or were you guys kind of segregated where media over here went did their own thing, and the team did their own thing, or what? Because you're all out there, like
Right.
all you guys are coming from New Orleans, and you're out there in Irvine. How was that?
Well, it's a little different than, say, at the Greenbrier, because the Greenbrier, the town was so small, you'd often run into people a lot.
Yeah.
With this particular setup, I think the team was in Newport Beach, so like they would take a bus to practice, and depending on time of day, it could be like 30 minutes. So sometimes you'd run into people out, but not as often as you'd like. But you can hear everything that's going on because there's no fans, so you hear like people talking on the sidelines like more than we ever have. So that was interesting. Like Foster is like the chattiest person on the sideline constantly every day, which was funny. I didn't know that. So it's kind of funny the things like you pick up on and potentially learn about people. I thought, just thinking about the practices, I thought the weather was very helpful in terms of what they're able to do at practice. It felt like these practices, they pushed them hard. I don't know if that was why they had so many injuries, but it did feel like they were able to push them harder because they weren't all, suffering in 100-degree heat.
Right.
But especially the last practices when they were supposed to have joint practices, I feel like they were pushing them hard. They had a lot of team periods. As much as they can have, however many you're allowed to have under the rules. But I mean, that's I guess one positive aspect of what they're able to do. But I like being there because I like the weather. So I was very big fan of that.
It comes with a price. Well, it's funny because you were in Orange County. Orange County is like usually 10 to 15 degrees cooler than like the Valley.
I noticed that because I have a friend that lives in the Valley, and I got out of my car and thinking, oh my God, it's actually hot.
Different.
It hadn't been hot the whole time I was there.
Different.
So she had to explain that to me. Well, hot. I mean, it's
close.
different.
It's closer to the Orange County is closer to the coast than the Valley. It's more inland. Anyway,
I was staying near John Wayne Airport, so.
Okay. Yeah. No, exactly.
Yeah. So I was near the campus, but not a very exciting area. My hotel near the airport.
No. A subplot that came from camp, because we're kind of talking about quarterbacks, is the tantalizing talent that Spencer Rattler showed at times in training camp. He had that game-winning drive against Cardinals, and then both him and Jake Kaner kind of came back to earth against the Niners. What is just like your sense of who has the edge in the QB2 battle? And do you get a sense from whether it be players or even, coaches on the team that they maybe legitimately see either quarterback as someone that may potentially could start if needed in the future?
I thought Rattler took a huge step forward from where he was in June. I mean, it was night and day. I thought that, I'm just thinking over camp, it kind of depended by the week, honestly. There were some weeks that Haener had a really good week. There's some weeks that Rattler had a good week. I think Haener had a better last week. Part of that could be that when Rattler came off of that game one, he obviously had some issue with his thigh. They called it like a thigh contusion. And so he missed one practice, and then the next practice, I don't think he played very well. He was kind of limping around, which is kind of to be expected. but none of that is surprising. As a rookie, he's not going to be great every day, but I thought his ceiling is so high, and I think other reporters agreed. Like, he clearly has this very high ceiling. So even though you have moments like in the game against the Niners where it just was not his day, you can see that the talent is there. He's very talented. Right now, maybe based on the last week, I put Haener slightly over him, but I mean, that's just me. Like, it's hard to get into their heads. And that would only be because I feel like if they're saying someone needs to go play in a game right now, they'd probably feel better. Well, it's not like Haener has experience, but it's NFL experience.
Yeah.
I honestly joked. I said, in that case, what if they just would go to Taysom? I mean, that's not out of the question. Well, I don't know. If it was Peyton, I'd say they go to Taysom. I feel like with Allen, maybe that ship has totally sailed.
Sailed.
Yeah, so maybe not. It's what would you do if you're a coach? So if, say, something happens to Derek Carr week 1, would you just roll with Rattler and see what you got? Or would you say, hey, Haener has yeah, I know what you'd say. Haener has a year of experience. So maybe I put them very close, honestly. So maybe Haener a little bit. I do think that they have done a pretty good job at not tipping their hand on how they really feel. They haven't, sometimes I feel like people let things slip. I don't think they have. But that could be just because they like both of them. I think both of them will make the roster. I thought that from the beginning of the summer, though.
I do. I root for Rattler, but it's really no disrespect to Haener. I really like Haener.
Yeah,
I
Haener's
really
fun.
He's a fun player. I like just the grittiness he plays with. I just I like him, but I just just that upside you talked about.
Yeah, Haener's got fire though. He had this one play where he had a fake. They were running the 2-minute drill in the red zone. And he had a fake spike, and then ran it in for a touchdown, and just everyone was freaking out. And he had a couple of plays like that where just the whole team was just into it, and stuff like that is fun to watch. You're like, oh man, this young kid clearly has talent. And I mean, same thing with Rattler though. You see Rattler make a big throw, and you see, okay, you give this a year or so, and where can this guy be? So I think they're both very talented, which is a great position for them to be in because, it's so rare to have a team that actually has 2 young quarterbacks and both of them have a lot of upside. And you don't even really see teams draft quarterbacks back to back like that. So it's made it fun to watch. I've enjoyed kind of watching them go back and forth.
Save big on all your back-to-school needs, all in the Kroger app. Get delicious, fresh Heritage Farm boneless chicken breasts for $2.49 a pound with your card. Then get 3-pound bags of juicy Cutie seedless mandarins for $2.99 a pound with your card and a digital coupon. Shop these deals at your local Kroger, less than 5 miles away. Or tap the screen now to download the Kroger app to save big today. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Prices and product availability subject to change. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Yeah, it is. It feels like I guess something that we've talked about a bit on this podcast is that if at some point things look like dire in the season, they're not playing well. It's like losses stacking up on top of each other, potentially Derek Carr not looking great. It would just make sense, and it just feels like the most non-Saints thing ever, but it would just make sense for them to just get a look at either guy, whether it's Haener or Rattler, for 2 games, just to see what you have, because at least they would have an answer to their question going into next offseason. If quarterback is something they need to prioritize, or maybe they have something that they can start building with from within, like in-house. It just doesn't seem like it would happen.
I agree. I don't think that would happen unless DA got fired mid-season, and that doesn't really seem like a thing the Saints would do. So if DA is still coaching, even if things are going bad, I kind of see him and Carr as tied together. That's a quarterback he wouldn't pick, and so I think that it would be Carr all the way through. What'd you say?
Twice.
He picked them twice, kind of,
Oh
with the
yeah,
Raiders.
exactly. Because if you're a coach that's coaching for his job, why would it? Or if you don't think you're going to be there, I mean, I just would think that unless it's Wes Carr is just struggling that much, I still think it's it's going to be Carr through till the end unless he gets hurt.
Mm-hmm.
But I keep harping on this, but like this first month is going to tell so much. I mean, the whole story of the season, it's going to be kind of maybe decided after a month. And usually I wouldn't say that, but if they handle these teams that I think are going to be very good, if they can handle those teams, I mean, then we're, I think, having a much different tone and saying, okay, this team actually like figured it out.
Did you have like when the schedule came out, everybody's doing like predictions and stuff like that. Did you have kind of a number of wins in your head that you envision this team that you've seen through training camp? Like, how many wins can you see this team having?
I'm sure I did, since I don't have it written down. I don't know like what I said, because I don't think that we actually published. We used to have game-by-game predictions and things like that. I think we don't do that anymore. Hold on, let me pull up the schedule. We're gonna. Jeff Duncan always has. Yeah, pulling up the schedule. Jeff Duncan always has a predictions column, and so all the reporters will probably contribute to that. And I mean, right now, I'm probably sitting around 8. I mean, I'm trying to figure that out. I said 10 last year, and I still maintain that I should have been correct. I mean, they should have won the Green Bay game.
Green Bay,
yeah. So I'm like, well, they didn't win 10 games. However, they should have won that Green Bay game. So many things. It was just like a whole team contribution to not win that game. Yeah.
Oh, good point. Speaking of that, is Blake Grupe going to end up being the starting kicker? Speaking of the Green Bay game,
that has been the topic of the day. Right now, I lean more towards Grupe. I think it's hard. It's such a hard decision, I think, for me to figure out like what they're thinking. Right. Charlie Smith made a 65-yard field goal the other day. But how many 65-yard field goals are they going to be attempting? Not many. So if you're not making the within 40-yard field goals, how much can they trust you? Now, granted, Grupe has missed several in training camp too. His misses have been longer. I don't think he's missed as many shorter field goals. But I think that they're going to look at it as, okay, we could stick with Grupe for now. We'll have Charlie on the practice squad because we have this one extra spot. And if it goes wrong, we can switch. If you go the other way and things go wrong really quickly, then you're kind of stuck. But it is hard not to get really excited about Charlie Smith because he literally learned to kick in American football a year ago tomorrow.
Like, if I was them, like, I wouldn't even risk putting Smith on the practice squad. Like, it's like, hey, you have a toenail IR.
That's what I wanted to ask you. Since he's like an international player, do you know if the rules are different? Like, as an international player on a practice squad, like, can any team claim him like normal, or is that different? Do you know?
As far as I know, based on the people we've talked to the last day, the rules are the same. I believe he still has to go through waivers, and so then he'll go to the practice squad, and they'll have an extra practice squad spot. So a team can claim him. The thing is, would another team be willing to take that risk when they haven't seen him every day, and he has to go on their 53? It's a big risk because they don't have all the information the Saints have had just from seeing him every single day. There might be a team that'd be willing to do it. I don't know off the top of my head what team would be in that market. So, I mean, it would be, personally, I would love it. It's a great story. He's fun to watch. I would love to see it. I think he's going to be within a year, probably kicking somewhere. If it's not in New Orleans, it's going to be somewhere. Because To me, it's crazy that he didn't even know how to kick a year ago, and he's already really come a long way. So it is I feel kind of like it's boring to lean towards the status quo with my predictions, but I'm trying to predict what they will do, not necessarily what would be more fun to watch.
Are you proud that you kind of carried a moniker amongst Saints fans? Like even on the Discord when we're talking, like all the Saints fans are talking on the Discord, they're like, "Well, I hope Cat asks this," at the first, because like you're the one. Not, and that's no disrespect to everybody else because they they do their thing too, but we know Cat gonna have that follow up because you ask a question.
That does make me proud, actually.
Yeah, you ask a coach a question, they're going to tell you blah blah blah, the whatever coach speak, but then you're going to come with the follow up like boom, bam. And then
I love that people think that.
Yeah, I think you carry that moniker now, like Cat, not the shit starter, but you're gonna smoke a little bit.
Wow, I love that. Yeah, I've already told you all the story, I think, of how that all started and why I had to start asking injury questions. But I do have a funny story I was thinking about today a lot because, as y'all know, I'm sure, Ed Daniels passed away last week and his funeral's tomorrow. And I was just thinking about Ed and I was thinking about this press conference years ago. I think it was the week that Kyrie Fort got cut. I don't know if y'all remember Kyrie Fort.
Yeah.
Kyrie
UCLA,
Fort,
UCLA legend didn't go to his linebacker meeting. Of course, we know Kyrie Fort.
He had a sleeping issue or something. I think that was also the week Keem Hicks got traded. There was two things going on that week. Because I remember I walked in the locker room and Kyrie Fort's locker it was cleaned out, and it was right before the press conference, and so I was asking people, did this guy's locker get moved? Where's his locker? And so Peyton starts his presser, and it goes on, and I was waiting to ask the question because I knew he'd probably get irritated. So he talks for 10 or 15 minutes, and I asked, what happened to Kyrie Fort? And then it was something else. It was something to do with Mark Ingram or something to do with Keem Hicks. And Peyton goes, no comment or whatever, and he walks off and ends the press conference. And so Ed looks at me and he's like, well, we were waiting for you to ask. And at the time, I was so annoyed. I was like, what? I'm the 23-year-old new kid. What? You can't ask? Y'all can't ask this question. So I was kind of fuming that they'd say that. And all these years later, y'all know if I'm the shitster or whatever, I mean, Ed was that times 1,000. Ed would ask anything. Every time Ed showed up, I was like, oh man, I can't. I loved watching him ask questions because I felt like I learned a lot from him. So all these years later, I'm like, wow, maybe I just earned Ed's respect by asking these questions, and I never realized that, back when I was 23. And I don't know, it made me kind of proud to think of it that way because I always loved that. If no one else is going to ask, Ed is going to come in, and Ed's going to start something. And yeah, we're really going to miss him. But sorry, I went off on a tangent, but.
Okay.
Yeah, I always was proud of that, I wanted to be a reporter that asked tough questions. I wanted to be that aspect of Ed and how he could do that. And so I always admired people that could do that. And because we're supposed to be the way that fans can get their questions answered.
And that's the whole thing.
Yeah, that's why point. We're here.
It's not to just stir shit up, but there are things we want to know, and we know how the NFL is. NFL coaches, they want to give you as little information as possible. But sometimes all it takes is just like that extra follow-up question, like so why did you do this? Or you said last week that da 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 da, and then they either cut you off and do like Peyton did and just walk off, or they follow up and come with actual answers.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't know. like, the Kendra Miller thing. I followed up the other day. I said, you said 3 weeks ago that you were worried about how you don't have an evaluation. And DA said, oh, well, I still feel the same way I felt 3 weeks ago, which was telling. So
super telling.
Yeah. The thing that I'm not going to go on a rant. The thing that annoys me the most as a reporter sometimes is when you are in that scrum and you're asking these questions and you're on a roll, and then someone interrupts you and changes the subject. So then you have
what are you doing, bro? Let me cook.
Get it back. Yeah, exactly. You have to get the interviewee back on that subject, and sometimes they've already moved on. And
yes.
Like, come on, y'all. What are you doing? Especially when you're just on a roll and you actually know, like, you're asking good questions. And because I think some of those fun days are the days when something has happened, some Saints nonsense, and you're just going to ask 18 questions about it. Yeah, those are the crazy days as a reporter, but I do find them fun.
Speaking of Saints nonsense, you don't apologize for going on the rants and tangents. We love it. Speaking of Saints nonsense, what, in your opinion, what what would be, I guess, not considered good enough in the Saints' mind to retain Dennis Allen if the season goes a certain way? I'm not like it doesn't. I don't know if I'm asking a certain number of wins, make playoffs or bust. I'm just more curious because I do know that there was a lot of frustration last season, and I know that some of the games where Rams, Lions, Jags that started off really, really ugly, and then they did like the little fake comeback thing. I know that looked good enough to some people in the organization of saving face, but do you get a sense of what the bar is?
Well, I think one big thing would be whether he loses the locker room. I think that would be more important than wins and losses to some extent, because if that happens, where would you go from there? If he loses the locker room and the organization brings him back, well, then how do you get the respect back from those players? And if those players have influence over other players, then it just spirals. So that's one big thing. I think if they don't make the playoffs again, and he's never made the playoffs. Y'all know his record by now. I think that
24 and 46.
Yeah. I knew you knew it off the top of your head. I think that would be hard to defend. I understand where they were coming from last year, because I can understand their thinking in that they look at the Jacksonville game and say, okay, well, if Foster Moreau had made that catch, they would have won the game. If things hadn't gone bad in Green Bay, they would have won the game. So they can talk themselves into saying, okay, those are 2 games they should have won. They would have made the playoffs. This is a playoff team. Let's move forward. Let's let him pick his own coaching staff. Yada, yada, yada. Okay, fine. I'm actually a pretty big believer in giving a coach 3 years unless there's just absolute reason not to do it. I always kind of hate when there's some NFL teams that are just so intent on just churning through the coaches. I don't think that helps anything. But people are free to disagree about that. I can understand the other point that people would say, well, considering the fan base, how they felt, how they were selling their tickets, how they were booing, all of that. Why don't we just change coaches now? I get all the arguments. But I think that DA is allowed to pick his own coaching staff. He has his own quarterback. Everything is catered now to what Allen has wanted. It is fully his team. And if they can't make the playoffs, then, are they ever going to? So I don't know. I don't know if it's a certain number of wins. That's just my thought on it. Obviously, we all know this is a make or break year for him. We're going to be writing that a ton. But it's a winnable division. It was a winnable division last year. It was a winnable division the year before. So at some point,
And
there's no more excuses.
And it's interesting you brought up the point about the locker room because I felt like it was teetering last year,
Yeah.
and they kind of rallied towards the end of the year, and then at the end of the season, and I don't know, can you tell me if this ever happened before? I remember Loomis, or it being reported that like Loomis talked to the locker room,
Mm-hmm.
like him and just like the general manager and the players. I don't ever remember hearing that ever happening, like ever. Has
He
that
said
happened
that he
before?
had. He said he has. We asked him about it. It's possible it was just never reported.
Yeah.
I think I asked a player that, and he didn't seem to think it was that weird. But also,
Mm.
the said player could have just been like, "No, everything's fine." This was right after it happened, so I'm sure it's happened. But it was interesting how it was reported because it certainly made it seem like it was unusual. It felt unusual to me at the time,
Yeah. It
but
did to me.
people have said they've done that before. But I mean, it certainly felt like they were trying to, rally all the troops
Kumbaya.
and yes,
And
and
then I
figure
saw
this
the
out.
reporting. Yeah, I think it was Luke Johnson that reported this year, like DA's made like a bigger effort to kind of, where they have like Family Feud and little fun things they do during the off season, during OTAs and stuff like
Yeah,
that. I guess to kind of build camaraderie. I don't know, but I just find that funny that not funny, but I just find it interesting that they're really trying. Like he's really trying to have like the locker room thing not
yeah,
being it, because I think it really got close last year. Just from the outside looking in, it really got like it was teetering. It was getting. You had guys like Eric McCoy screaming at Carl on the field. It was
right,
Boo Birds in the Superdome. Tickets gone. We couldn't
yeah.
give away tickets. Cat, we could not give away Saints tickets. We were begging people, please take these
I think
tickets.
they were $8. Either the Lions game or like one of the games after the Lions game. We pulled it up on
Yeah.
StubHub, and they were $6 or $8.
We sold the last game, the Saints Falcons game, for $10 on StubHub. Saints Falcons game,
Saints Falcons.
$10.
And you missed a insane ending that made that entire game fun. That game was actually pretty. I don't even really remember that game
No one remembers
anymore,
like actual,
except for the
like,
end. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like Kendrick
James
Miller
was
had a
around.
good game.
Oh
And
my god.
Olave
You
looked
wanna-
good, but like no one remembers that.
You want to talk about stirring stuff up? I was like, I cannot wait to go in this locker room and ask everybody what they thought because everyone had a different opinion. I think we all, yeah.
Emotions were hot, boy. Speaking of Ed Daniels was coming at Jameis. Everybody was mad at Ed Daniels. It was like, oh my god.
Oh my god, that really was funny, and they just couldn't stop talking about it. Like one would go a different direction, and then the other one would go like try to bring it up again. I mean, like 3 separate times. They just wanted to talk about it, and I think Jameis was pulling other people in to ask them their opinion. I mean, I'm trying to interview other people, and this is all like going on behind me. I was actually in the middle of the Jameis scrum when that was happening, and I think Ed was behind me, so I just felt like this is like happening over my head, and like I in the middle, so I can't get out, and it's just like back and forth, and I just remember being like, okay, can I go interview someone else and let's move on from this? It really was funny. I mean, Ed, like, however you felt about Ed had his opinions, and he stuck to them. Like I had a different opinion on that game than Ed did. Obviously, I was like, I'm all for it. They're professional teams. They get paid to stop them like anyone else. There was a large segment. Some players thought, we shouldn't do this out of victory formation. That's not. I mean, I get it. I got all of it, but
then you had the story of like
funny.
PO to all the Saints fans was DA apologizing. That had me hot. That had everybody hot. But it was
never seen Ryan so mad. I mean,
they blew out the Falcons. And everybody, all the Saints fans were pissed. It was just crazy. It was.
And then Arthur Smith got fired.
Yeah.
What, 3 hours later?
Immediately. Didn't even make it back that late.
Was it that soon after? I forgot about that.
Oh, yeah.
It was immediately. It was immediately.
Like the middle of the night. Like, yes, it was within hours. But that's why I love covering Saints Falcons. Like, I love pettiness. Like, just give me all the petty nonsense in the world. I love it. I love that they embrace it. Because football's supposed to be fun. I feel like we forget it's supposed to be fun, and that game, the end of it, to me, that's great. This rivalry is so petty and it's full of nonsense and all this stuff, and I love covering it. And that's exactly why, like that, and the throwing the eggs at the bus, and Jimmy Graham breaking their goalpost, and oh my God, I could go on and on. There's so many
simpler times.
Simpler times, but I love it. I love covering that rivalry.
The last one, we've gone an hour. We'll let you go. Getting away from the Saints, I'll ask you a question that you're very passionate about. What are your overall thoughts on your LSU Tigers this upcoming football season?
Someone was we were talking about aggregators yesterday, and someone was saying that someone had aggregated that ESPN left them out of their playoff teams in the story they did yesterday. I think it's still prominently up on the site. And I was like, oh, I clicked on that and I forgot to actually read it, which shows me how I'm so much in NFL mode right now. I hope they're going to be good. I have high hopes for them. The 13-year-old in me badly wants to win this USC game. We talk about pettiness. I've held a grudge about the USC AP title since I was 13 years old. Yeah, you're like, what are you talking about?
I know what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about. The BCS, right?
Yes,
right?
Yes. I've never forgotten it. I've wanted them to play this game for so long. 13-year-old me if you told 13-year-old me they would finally be playing, and then you told me, but it's in Las Vegas, I'd be like, are you kidding me? I mean, seriously? In Vegas, we can't have this at a home and home.
Right.
So I won't. I unfortunately won't be at that game. But
is that the season opener?
Mm-hmm.
That would be a good game to go to. But
it's on a Sunday too. Yeah.
Oh, that's weird.
Really?
But ticket prices to any game in that stadium is astronomical. So there's no chance.
Yeah, I thought about going, but it's hard at the beginning of the season. There's so much going on. I just spent 26 days away from my house. So, anyway, I hope they'll be good. I have moderately high hopes for them, but not like over the top homer feelings. So, we'll just see. I've been burned before. Like they had that opener against UCLA, right? And then they lost.
Yeah.
What year was that? A few years ago?
2 years ago.
Anyway, go Tigers.
Yeah. Many people in the chat saying that. Any last ones from you, Ryan?
No. I was just glad to have you on. I'm glad I got a chance to finally meet you. That was around the French Quarter Fest.
Fest, yeah.
Yeah, you, Ross. Ross had his girl with him. I believe you had a friend. Good time. Funny story. Kat had like a pitcher of water that we had like some little bar in the French Quarters or whatever. And Kat had like a pitcher of water that she was drinking, and waiter kept coming back, filling up the water. I thought it was vodka. I was like, damn, Kat. I'm like, Kat is throwing back that vodka, man. I'm like, hey, we might have to carry her out of here the way she had that vodka. And she's like, no, this is water. Like,
I thought you were about to say I spilled it. Like I was waiting for you to be like, you spilled it all over the table. So that's why I was like, what did I do? Did I spill it? I am a klutz.
That vodka up, man.
I am from Louisiana, so
I know. Exactly. That's why I assumed it was vodka.
Yeah, you're like, she's fine. She's fine.
One day, I don't know how many years it's been. It has to be at least like 12 plus. One day, you and I will actually.
One day, I feel so bad that we didn't meet in California.
It's fine.
Ross and John had that event that looked awesome, and I really wish I'd been able to make it. But as I was telling y'all earlier, you have to commit to going anywhere in Los Angeles. Like you have to commit to being willing to drive an hour back. And that time change, for some reason, had me so off kilter that I kept waking up earlier and earlier and earlier every single day till the end. I was waking up at like 4:50 in the morning.
What?
Yeah. It was. I was not happy about it. Let's put it that way.
Well, we will all be together in New Orleans for speaking of Saints Falcons. We'll be together in New Orleans in November for the Saints Falcons game. I'm also going to be in New Orleans with my girl in October for Taylor Swift. So I'm sure something.
Well, I will be there. So I'll be at one of them.
Yeah, I don't know which one. I gotta anyway.
You don't sound excited about going to see Taylor Swift.
Oh, I mean, I saw her when she came to SoFi last year. But yeah, definitely excited. For favorite Taylor Swift song to close out the podcast.
Oh, favorite Taylor Swift song.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, favorite song of the moment because the music video.
No.
No.
I didn't say.
Oh,
I didn't
ever. Okay, my favorite song is "Nothing New."
Okay.
That's deep cut right there.
It is
also,
very deep cut.
To illustrate that I am old now. The first time I saw Taylor Swift was in 2007.
Jeez.
2007. Yeah. She was opening for George Strait's opener.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
How times have changed.
All these years later, the tickets are a little bit more expensive now.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, deep cut. Anyway, Katherine, KT, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. It's always a great time. The chat. I didn't even get a chance to get even a tiny scope of all the questions that were asked in the chat. But thank you so much. Enjoy covering the team this season. Hopefully there'll be like shenanigans, but like maybe some fun shenanigans.
Hey, I love shenanigans.
I need some fun.
Shenanigans.
Like get some fun shenanigans,
yeah.
But
there were some last year.
If there's other type of shenanigans, I know that you got us covered as Saints fans. So thank you for coming on. It's always a pleasure. We appreciate you coming on so much.
Yeah, sorry I rambled on all these questions and didn't get to all y'all's questions. But I always have so much fun going on with y'all. That's why I always say yes, even though it is 11 o'clock here.
That's love. That's love.
I know it is. It is. Really I don't say yes to any podcast request.
This is true.
No, but this was great, and we'll definitely have to talk again soon about whatever nonsense, shenanigans, craziness they've managed to come up with. I can't wait.
Same
this
old
was
Saints.
Supposed to be our Saints Titans preview pod, like mixed in with this.
Fine.
It's the third game of the preseason. Like really. Oh, that is one question that came from the chat. Do you think they'll play any of the starters? And I would probably lean towards no.
No, but I kind of wonder if they're. I mean, does Penning count? Like Penning needs to play. So the offensive linemen always tend to play a lot, but obviously not going to see McCoy or Ruiz. But I would assume, or probably not Fuaga. Probably not. You'll probably see all the guys that they're cycling through at right tackle. So get excited for that. That's what I can tell you about this game. That you'll probably be focusing a lot on what's happening at right tackle. So
I'm tired of watching offensive line. I'm tired. I've never watched so much offensive line in my life, man.
If I see 70 get pushed back by like fifth string Titan starters, I'm done. Anyway, thank you, Kat. We appreciate you.
Talk to you guys. Right. Talk to you guys soon.
All right.
Take care.
Thanks, Kat. Amazing episode with Kat. We not much really needs to be said. So this is our Titan Saints preview. Like we don't care. There's not going to be a Titan Saints preview. This is it. Like this is much better than what you get in a Titan Saints preview.
Preview. Anyway. Saints play the Titans. That's the preview.
That's it. We'll be back on Sunday. Speaking of that game, we were having our Zoom Sunday at the game's at. It's a weird time. It's at 11 Pacific time, 1 o'clock Central time. So the Zoom will be going, and then we'll do the recap right after. So thank y'all for joining us. We had like 50 plus concurrent viewers at one point. So thank y'all so much. We appreciate y'all. We'll be back on Sunday. With that, we're out.
Peace.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Save big on all your back-to-school needs, all in the Kroger app. Get delicious, fresh Heritage Farm boneless chicken breasts for $2.49 a pound with your card. Then get 3-pound bags of juicy Cutie seedless mandarins for $2.99 a pound with your card and a digital coupon. Shop these deals at your local Kroger, less than 5 miles away. Or tap the screen now to download the Kroger app to save big today. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Prices and product availability subject to change. Restrictions apply. See site for details.